So let's talk about Michael Phelps. But this isn't just going to be about the champion you think you know, the guy on the Wheaties box. We're going behind all that, behind the medals, to unpack a story that completely redefines what it even means to be a winner. First, you just have to start with the numbers because they're just insane. 28 Olympic medals. And look, 23 of those are gold. It's a record that's so far beyond anyone else, it almost doesn't seem real. He is without a doubt the most decorated Olympian of all time, a living legend. And then you see this. At the absolute height of his fame, the greatest champion in history said this. So how do you square that? How does the guy who had it all, who was the best in the world, feel like he didn't even want to be alive? That shocking contradiction, well, that's the real story here. Okay, so to get why he struggled, you first have to understand how the machine was built. Because for a long, long time, that's exactly what he was, a perfectly engineered swimming machine, designed and built for one single purpose: winning. I mean, just try to wrap your head around this. For 20 years, starting when he was a kid, he didn't take a single day off. Not for his birthday, not for Christmas, nothing. Every single day, he was in the pool swimming 20,000 meters. He basically sacrificed his entire childhood for this one singular goal. And what did that actually look like? Well, it looked something like this: a relentless, grueling blur of distances, strokes, and impossibly short breaks. This wasn't just about working hard. It was a cold, calculated, scientific process of pushing a human body past its limits, day in and day out. And it wasn't just his body they were engineering. It was his mind. The whole idea of "I can't," it was literally, as he says, removed from his vocabulary. His mindset was weaponized, made just as ruthlessly efficient as his swimming stroke. He was trained to be a machine in every sense of the word. And the architect behind all of this? That was his coach, Bob Bowman. He saw the potential in this 11-year-old kid and basically mapped out his entire life. And with Phelps's parents divorcing, Bowman became way more than a coach. He was a central father figure, shaping everything about the young man who would conquer the world. But here's the thing about building a machine like that. While the whole world was watching the public victories, a really dangerous pattern was starting to form behind the scenes. See, for every incredible high, there was a devastating private low that followed. Just think about the kind of pressure this guy was under. At the Beijing Olympics in 2008, he won his 7th gold medal, the one that kept the dream of 8 alive, by 1/100th of a second, the smallest possible sliver of time. That was his reality. Anything less than absolute razor-thin perfection was failure. And what's the reward for that kind of perfection? Well, you get this: global superstardom. After Beijing, he wasn't just a swimmer anymore, he was a phenomenon. Parades, sponsorships, the whole shebang. As his mom said, he wasn't just her son anymore, he belonged to the world. And then, boom, immediately after that incredible high, he crashes. He plummets into what he called the darkest place you could ever imagine. Psychologists say this is pretty common for Olympians. Life goes from 100 miles an hour to a dead stop. But for Phelps, it was a terrifying freefall into nothingness. And the scariest part? This wasn't a one-time thing. It was a brutal, repeating cycle. After Athens in 2004, depression and a DUI. After the incredible triumph of Beijing in '08, another dark plunge. And then, after London in 2012, for the first time, he started thinking about suicide. The pattern was undeniable. The higher he climbed, the deeper he fell. So after the London Olympics, Phelps was adamant. He said, "That's it, I'm done with swimming." But the machine, now just running on fumes, had one more breaking point to reach. This was the moment it all finally came apart. And this was the final straw. September 2014, he gets a second DUI. This time, it hit him professionally. USA Swimming suspended him for 6 months. The entire structure, the whole world that had defined his life since he was a boy, was just gone. And that's when he truly hit rock bottom. He locked himself in a room for days on end. He admitted he was running from something. In his own words, he felt he didn't deserve to be alive. He had spent his entire life being Michael Phelps the swimmer. But without swimming, he had no clue who Michael was. But sometimes hitting rock bottom is the only way you can really start to climb back up. And this moment of total crisis, It actually became the most important turning point of his entire life. It was the end of the machine and the real beginning of the man. It wasn't an easy fix, of course. He got to rehab and he was, in his words, completely walled off. But slowly, through therapy, he started to unpack all these emotions he'd been stuffing down for years. And for the first time, he was in a room full of people who cared about him as a person, not as a medal winner. He was finally seeing himself as a human being.
I think his wife, Nicole, really puts it best. This wasn't about fixing a problem. It was about totally rebuilding his identity. He had to learn that it was okay to not be okay, that it was okay to be vulnerable, to just be himself.
And you can really see this massive shift when you put it side by side like this. The swimmer's world was all about numbers, shaving hundredths of a second off a time. The human's world is about unquantifiable things, like saving a life. The swimmer had to hide every emotion. The human shares them openly. His identity just isn't defined by medals anymore. It's defined by his family and his new mission. So with this new identity, he found a whole new purpose. He stopped chasing records. He started chasing something so much bigger. And this isn't just talk, right? He put it straight into action. Through his foundation, he's helped teach over 20,000 kids, many from communities that really need it, about water safety and healthy living. He's taking his own pain and turning it into something positive for others. And this, right here, this is his new metric for success. This is his new finish line. He says that saving just one life through his work, that means more to him than any of those 28 gold medals. It's a total redefinition of what victory looks like. So, when you look back at it all, the story of Michael Phelps isn't really about athletic perfection anymore, is it? It's become this incredibly powerful story about finding strength not in being invincible, but in being vulnerable. His true legacy is still being written. In the end, his whole journey really leaves us with this one question. He spent his entire life chasing gold, but maybe his most important work only started when he realized his own humanity was the real prize. So what is a legacy worth more than gold? Maybe it's having the courage to finally say, it's okay to not be okay.